We will start off with the flag salute. If you'd all please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we get to start tonight with the agenda is published, has a couple of modifications to it. One, there was a bit of a scheduling hiccup with our student presentation. They are due to ultimately all assemble before 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. There was a little bit of a miscommunication. So we are going to give them a few minutes to make sure they've gathered all the people that are intended to come. So we are going to move that later in the agenda. So we're going to move forward in the agenda. I'll be looking for an approval of the agenda, but I'm also instructed to make a comment that the agenda as originally published had a typo or misprint with respect to one of the consent agenda items. The new consent agenda has been reposted. There was just a mistaken resignation of somebody that isn't really resigning. So that's been corrected, and so I would be looking for a motion to approve our uniquely modified agenda for that reason and for some flexibility we're going to have. If anyone would care to try to get that motion.
So I will make a motion that we approve our amended uniquely agenda as dictated by Wayne's explanation.
Second.
Okay, moved by Glenn, seconded by Monty. Any questions? Thank you for the flexibility. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We will carry on with our uniquely modified agenda for the evening. Okay, so with that, that does put us at audience time. I have the standard statement to read regarding audience time. This says public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BDDH. Patrons may comment on specific agenda items at the beginning of the meeting, or at the discretion of the board chair may be referred to a time the item is before the board as stated in the agenda. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard during audience time at the beginning of the regular board meeting. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of school operations and programs that are of concern to them. However, in public sessions, the board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. Other channels provide for board consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals, including board policy KLKLD public complaints. So if anyone would like to address the board, this is our audience time now. I do have one sheet, but there are other board agenda cards in the back. You're welcome to provide them to Val this time. We have one person who would have a card for, would like to speak, and invite him to come forward, Jaime Rodriguez. You can come and please state your name and address for the record, and then we'll have 3 minutes.
Jaime Rodriguez, 1931 Southeast 55th Street, Hillsboro. My parent, I graduated from Central High School. Currently have a nephew at Southridge, South Meadows, and a Hillsboro High sophomore. So again, Jaime Rodriguez, thank you for this opportunity. First, as a volunteer with the HSF, it was good to see some school board and staff at Saturday's Giga fundraiser. A lot of good fun, a lot of things happening. As the Hillsboro Schools Foundation continues to raise funds in support of innovation grants for local schools, we thank you for being there. It's always good to have such support from the board of directors and direct staff. It really motivates me as a committee volunteer. And we're on to the next project, which will be the April phone-a-thon. Second, although I was unable to attend last week's Spanish chat with the superintendent at Chute Library, I was out ill with the flu. I did hear about it. A big thanks for providing that outreach to the Spanish-speaking community. Great reviews. They love you, Mike. Kudos and props to the chair of the board, Glenn Cliff, Gracias, Mr. Chair. Que got this. Hablas en español con los padres. Me da mucho gusto de corazón. Thank you. Thank you that were present and spoke in Spanish to the parents. That was just great. Now a couple of asks. With the passage last week in the legislature for the minimum wage increase that the governor will soon be signing soon, I would like to ask the board to receive their vote in support of opposing an increase in the minimum wage that was voted on January 12th. I also ask to find, respectively, within the budget, to bring all Hillsboro school staff to at least $13.50 an hour. I believe the cost will be about $34K. I ask the school board to be proactive in the minimum wage, show goodwill to the employees of the Hillsboro School District, and continue the leadership and stability to our wonderful school district. Respectfully, Jaime Rodriguez. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move out of audience time. There are no other audience cards, Val? We will proceed first to our first topic for reports and discussions with Cindy from Migrant Bilingual English Language Learners Program. Is that set to go? I know we're a little early on our time.
No, that sounds great.
That work great?
Olga Acuna couldn't be with us tonight with her duties as a city councilor, so she asked if I would introduce Cindy and Marta very quickly. Olga Acuna no puede estar con nosotros esta noche por sus responsabilidades como miembro del City Council y quiero hacer una introducción de Cindy y Marta. Cindy y Marta trabajan con nosotros como apoyo de CCAC, nuestro comité de ciudadanos para el currículo. So Cindy and Marta are staff for us in our Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee as well. Irma, Heriberta, and Laura son miembros del CCAC también. So Irma, Heriberta, and Laura are members of the CCAC as well. And I want to just publicly thank all of them for their influence in our school district and our community as representatives of Parent Voice. So quiero hacer un gracias grande por su influencia y su impacto en nuestra comunidad como miembros de nuestra comunidad de padres. Gracias por su servicio a todos. So thank you for your service, all of you. Tonight they're going to share about the ELL and Migrant PAC and their work in the PAC community. So thank you.
Thank you. So I had the pleasure to work with the Migrant Bilingual English Language Learner Parent Advisory Committee. And we're here to give you an insight on the strong parent leadership that is taking place in our district by our PAC leaders. And we'll be sharing specific strategies for parent and family engagement, upcoming workshop themes, and ways to support our diverse students and their families. We'll also be sharing learnings from the Oregon Association for Comprehensive Education Conference that we went to last month. And the focus of this conference was equity, empowerment, and engagement. The conference provides professional development for staff and also for parents on strategies for success from cradle to career. And really the mission of this conference connects with our Parent Advisory Committee, which is to prepare families and students to enter kindergarten, to be prepared to meet standards in math, and also to graduate and continue their career and college paths. I also want to take the time to recognize our president, Irma Alonso, who was recognized at the state conference as the Title I Parent Advocate of the Year. So I do want to give an applause. Our parents are really hard workers. They come here right after work, and so I think Irma is a great example of the dedication and the collaboration with our teachers and our administrators in our district to really engage families and to continue that home and school connection and collaboration. Buenas noches, estoy aquí con el placer de trabajar con el Comité de Padres Asesores, que es migrante bilingüe y inglés como segundo idioma. Y estamos aquí esta noche para dejarles saber algunas de las cosas que estamos haciendo a nivel del distrito para involucrar a más padres y familias para el aprendizaje de nuestros estudiantes aquí en nuestro distrito. Vamos a compartir estrategias específicas tocante a cómo involucrar a más familias y también vamos a compartir unos temas de capacitaciones que tendremos este año escolar. También maneras en que podemos apoyar a nuestros estudiantes diversos y sus familias. También vamos a compartir lo que aprendimos en la conferencia que fuimos el mes anterior de la Asociación de Oregon para la Educación Integral. Y quiero tomar el momento de reconocer a nuestra presidenta de nuestro comité, que fue reconocida como Padre Líder del Año a nivel estatal. Entonces, te quiero dar otro aplauso, Irma. Okay, so without further ado, I'll go ahead and have Pat share their learnings. Ahora le voy a pasar la voz a Irma.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Heriberta Díaz, estoy involucrada en nuestro involucramiento familiar, prácticas prometedoras. Nuestra meta como padres es aprender prácticas y estrategias para ayudar a nuestros jóvenes y niños para que ellos atiendan para que tengan el éxito en la escuela, tanto en el kinder hasta el grado 12 y así puedan ir a la universidad.
Good evening, my name is Heriberta Diaz. I'm here to talk about family engagement and promising practices. Our goal as parents is to learn techniques and strategies so our children and youth can have school success from kinder through high school and then go off to college.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Irma Alonso y primero que todo les doy las gracias por hoy día estar aquí con ustedes y les quiero compartir el aprendizaje que he obtenido.
Good evening, my name is Irma Alonso. Thanks for being here and I'd like to share what I have learned with you.
Los entrenamientos han sido grandiosos de aprendizaje a nivel distrito, a nivel estado.
The workshop have been great at the district level and at the state level.
Y solo les pido que nos sigan apoyando de esa forma, en apoyar en...
And I only ask that you keep on supporting us in that way and supporting...
Porque no ha sido de en vano el trabajo que hemos hecho como padres líderes.
Because our work that we do as parent leaders is not in vain.
Hoy en día el aprendizaje que hemos obtenido
and the learning that we have attained till today,
lo estamos compartiendo con otros padres a nivel distrito,
and the learning that we have obtained, we're sharing it with parents at the district level.
Para igual que yo como madre, como esposa, me he propuesto metas y las he logrado en la vida.
So, like me as a wife and mother, I have accomplished goals that I have had in my life.
Y estas metas que me he propuesto las comparto con todos mis padres a nivel distrito para que igual que yo, ellas tengan metas grandes en la vida y así sus hijos logren ir a la universidad igual que los míos.
And these goals that I have accomplished, I would like to share with the other parents so they can accomplish big goals and their students can go off to college.
Y así juntos como padres, maestros, administradores, trabajemos juntos en la educación de nuestros hijos.
And that way, as parents, as teachers, and administrators, we can work together in support of our children's education.
Gracias por todo su apoyo y seguiremos trabajando en equipo como hasta ahora.
And thank you for all your support, and we'll continue to be working as a team until now.
Gracias.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Laura Gómez. Yo me tocó hablar acerca del involucramiento familiar en el proceso de la educación. Tenemos que empezar a una edad temprana mediante la lectura, los beneficios que se pueden obtener en el involucramiento familiar, mejores calificaciones y estándares elevados, mejor resolución de problemas mejor preparación para la universidad.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to talk to you about family engagement in the process of education. It's very important that we can start at an early age through reading. The benefits that we can obtain in family engagement are great: better grades, higher standards, and better ways to solve problems, and better ways to be prepared for college.
Una buena comunicación y el apoyo, ese respaldo como padres a nuestros hijos es súper importante.
So a good way for great communication is to support our children as parents. So this is very important.
Porque de nuestro apoyo en casa depende de que ellos sean seguros, tengan una buena autoestima, confianza en sí mismos.
Because if we support them at home, then they can be sure about themselves, have a high self-esteem, and be sure that whatever they think they can do, they can accomplish it.
De que todo lo que se propongan podrán lograrlo y así llegar a graduarse sin olvidar de dónde vienen y de sus raíces.
And that way, whatever they set to accomplish, they can continue to accomplish it, and they can graduate and without forgetting their roots.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Elizabeth.
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth.
Es importante identificar a los estudiantes que necesitan la intervención temprana.
It's important to identify students who need early intervention.
¿Por qué es importante? Esto les aseguraría mejor apoyo y recursos para que no se queden atrás. Todos los niños merecen tener el acceso adecuado para que puedan aprender al mismo nivel que sus compañeros o a niveles más altos.
Why is this important? This will guarantee better support and resources so they don't fall behind. All children deserve to have proper access to learn at the same level as their peers or at a higher level.
Apoyemos a nuestros niños para que sean bilingües. Hay una gran necesidad de doctores, psicólogos y personal bilingüe. Así, las familias recibirán los servicios adecuados.
So let's support our children so they can be bilingual. There is a great need for bilingual doctors, psychologists, and bilingual staff. In this way, families will receive the appropriate services.
Apoyemos a nuestros estudiantes a la educación bilingüe para que no se olviden de su lengua natal. Thank you.
Let's support our students in their bilingual education so they don't forget their native language. Thank you.
Y por último, yo siempre les he dicho a todos los padres de lo que he aprendido como comité, como madre, como esposa, que el inglés no es una barrera para seguir adelante, ni a nivel académico que yo no pude obtener, no me pude graduar ni de una escuela elemental, pero eso no es una barrera para mí ni para mis padres, ni de la tecnología. Hoy en día les demuestro que hoy estoy aquí para trabajar junto con ustedes, que sí se puede, les digo a mis padres, y eso se lo digo en los cafés con el superintendente, en todas las reuniones que obtenemos, que sí se puede. Gracias por su apoyo.
And lastly, like I've always said, as a committee, as a mother, as a wife, that limited English is not a barrier, nor is limited education or technology. Yes, we can, as I have shared this during numerous coffee chats with the superintendent. Thank you.
Yeah, we also wanted to give some time to the board members if there's any questions that you'd like or any comments.
I just want to give the comments that I very much appreciate that you're here tonight. I think it's important for all our parents across our districts to have an involvement in our community, in our school community, and to really have that, to share their perspectives and their desires to help all kids succeed. So thank you so much for being here and being involved in so much that you're doing. So.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank the parents. You represent your community in such a powerful and positive way. And I see you guys everywhere. We're everywhere out and about. And we see you and we appreciate you advocating for your students and the leadership role that you play in your community. And congratulations on being selected as the Parent of the Year. That's very exciting. Well deserved.
Comments, questions? What are your meetings?
We have them once a month, every third Thursday of each month.
We get them posted on the board running schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now, do we have a thumbs up yet? Or Travis, I've jumped to you, but then I'm not sure if they're going to come in with the symbols right when you start to talk.
Super exciting.
Yep, they're ready. So let's. Someone's got the presentation.
Okay, tonight it is my pleasure to introduce the Evergreen Middle School Choir taught by Marcia Kelly. Although they have only been practicing together since February 1st, this group of talented and dedicated students has several upcoming performances, including an elementary choral festival at Glencoe High School, the district middle school choral festival at Century High School, the Music in the Parks Festival and competition in Tacoma, Washington, and Oaks Amusement Park. Tonight they will be performing two songs for us, Dreams to Dream from An American Tale and I Will Sing My Song. Please join me in welcoming the Evergreen Middle School Choir.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Marcia Kelly. I'm the director. We have just begun choir this semester. Our first day was the 1st of February, so this is our very first performance anywhere. We don't even have our shirts yet, but they will. We will have our shirts, and they're very excited to be here. Unfortunately, we don't have the second song quite ready, so we'll be singing one song, but I have a student soloist performer that will be performing. So what we will do, maybe have the song first. We had another one too, but she's not here. Caitlin is not here, yes? Okay, so anyway, what we'll do is we'll sing, I Will Sing My Song, and I have two student soloists. I have JJ, could you raise your hand? I have JJ Hernandez, and I also have Emmy Hall, and they will be singing a solo, so go ahead and step forward. They're doing good. Step back a half a step. There you go, not too far away. Okay, everybody have your hands at your side. Smile. Okay, are you ready? One. Turn the volume over. One, two, three, four.
I will fill each day.
You guys can't hear the piano, yes? Yeah. Okay, so, stand tall. It's okay. We'll trade out here. She has this incredible mother. So this is Laura Morales. And then your Madeline play with me. So let's try again. You ready? Okay, relax. Breathe. Okay, smile. 1, 2, 3, 4. Solos. Part of our program includes some of our special needs kids and sometimes in the life skills program. So Sarah, you want to raise your hand? She's one of our special needs kids. She could come, so it's wonderful. Yeah. Now we'd like to do a solo with Madeline Marati. Will play the flute. And the song's called You Need to Be Out Here. Yes. Oh, okay, that's kind of like. Okay. So he goes back up a bit. It's okay. Just back up and sing. That's fine. It's called Can Can.
so much, and we're building our skills, and we're going to be even better by the spring, and we're on a good track, right, guys? Yep. I really like it. They were fun. Okay, picture time. So everybody look over there. Don't give me the one.
See you.
Okay, front row. Front row. Go down on your knees. Third row. Bend down just a little bit. Third row. Scoot forward and stand in your windows. Come up here. I'm ready? And smile.
2, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, it's almost spring break. Let's get happy. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. This is how we row by row. Great job. Second row, face that way.
We realize we have a riveting board session in store, but if parents are anxious, this is the opportunity to make an exit. You're totally welcome to stay. Really exciting agenda. Thank you all for, thank to the parents, by the way, for bringing the kids. You know, that's a thing out of the middle of your days, and it's really wonderful to hear.
They have exciting futures when you see the musicals at like Glencoe High School that was just on. These kids will be on that stage.
Yeah, this group feeds into that too.
Well, look at that. Order is restored to our time clock, and we are back. Thank you all those for staying with us tonight. And next up, we have on our agenda a first reading by Travis of a new course proposal.
Thank you. I want to introduce Karen Shea, assistant principal at Glencoe High School. Actually, I'll go sit just to show this.
Since we don't bother to give you a microphone, make you walk.
I'm filling in for Elizabeth Moore, who couldn't be with us, and she's the chair of our CCAC right now. So she and I would have been side by side to back Karen. I also want to introduce Principal Claudia Roof, who's here with us tonight, and teacher on special assignment Stephanie Blair, who's our math COSA, and you know her from the math adoption. They're just here to help answer questions if the board has any on this first reading. As you know, when a new course comes forward, it's already been to the site council and to principals and high schools. And on February 1st, Karen and her thank you. On February 1st, during the regular meeting of the CCAC, Karen and Tom Stevens and Claudia were there with us to introduce financial algebra. If it were approved in a month, it would actually go in the books as Advanced Algebra with Financial Applications, but that's not as snappy a title as Advanced Algebra, or as Financial Algebra, so we'll just refer to it as Financial Algebra and talking about it tonight. This is a course that is being piloted right now, actually with Tom, and under Karen's supervision, and would be available to all students next year if we were to approve it as a board in the district. So I'll let Karen talk a little bit about the course, and you have a bunch of information in your packet, and then I'll follow her presentation with a couple of comments that Elizabeth Moore asked me to make on behalf of the CCAC.
Thank you, Travis, and thank you to the board for allowing us to come tonight to present this. Financial algebra is a course that we've been talking about for a long time as high schools. We've been looking for a course to replace what was called trigonometry, algebra, and geometry, or TAG. That course is one that we won't be offering at any of the high schools next year. It was a class that was designed to provide students with a third and fourth year math option, but what we were finding is that it was really a dead end for students. It wasn't leading to any real life application, and it certainly wasn't connecting to higher levels of mathematics like we wished for it to. It didn't have a solid curriculum, and so we started to look for a replacement option. Our colleagues down in Salem Kaiser have been offering financial algebra for a couple of years now with great success. It's a course that ties in material from statistics, algebra, a little bit of pre-calculus, and quite a bit of statistics. Right now we have 150 students enrolled in the course at Glencoe. We did a student survey, and the vast majority of the students would like to see it offered permanently in our schools. Some of the feedback we've received is that they feel that it ties to our business programs of study, our accounting programs, and that they are really feeling that this course, more so than many others that we offer, is something that is really relevant to them and still provides a rigorous math experience. So it's definitely something that we see benefit for our students, and that they too are seeing the rigor and the relevance. So I don't know if there's any questions about the content of it, but if you look through kind of our proposed course sequence, it does tie to the Common Core, so it is standards-based, and it does cover a variety of topics. One of the questions that I kind of anticipated that I've been asked before is, well, how does this relate to the personal finance course that we already offer? Our personal finance course right now is primarily conceptual. The only math that the kids do in there is when they do some simple calculations around budgeting and taxes, and this goes to a whole different level. So they'd be doing more of the compound interest, looking at mortgages, looking at retirement funds, the stock market, and so it goes a lot deeper in terms of the mathematical application as compared to our semester-long personal finance.
So let me share, before questions, can I share on behalf of Elizabeth and the CCAC that the CCAC voted unanimously 11-0 to forward to the board a recommendation that this course be approved. Questions that they had involved how rigorous is this course? Is it comparable to Algebra 2? Does it align to the Common Core? And for that reason, we added some of the crosswalk documents in the packet. They also had questions about how does this go in the flow of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. As the CCAC and the board know, we did a realignment of all of our courses according to the Common Core. So we added this flow chart that shows financial algebra there next to Algebra 2, so we hope that that's a helpful communication tool for the board. Elizabeth also asked me to share that the conversation in the CCAC revolved around relevance, and is that they felt that this course was relevant to a lot of students who want to see math as relating more to their career, their focus area of study in terms of CTE programming. Also, a lot of students felt like it was appropriate to them in real life, quote unquote, in terms of managing their finances and understanding what interest is and compounding interest and all those things that affect us in the real world. So the parents and citizens of the CCAC were enthusiastic about this new offering as something that fits in our course sequence, but is also relevant to students' lives. So thank you for letting me share. She apologizes for not having the ability to be here tonight.
You got a quote?
Yeah, first off, thank you. I have to tell you, one of the things that I hear about math is, as you share to my own students, is like, well, why do I care, basically? It's hard to make a case when some of the algebra or the trig or whatever, is doing problems like, well, what angle do I have to put my boat at to get across the stream at X point, when the street's going. But this looks very comprehensive and very practical. And I appreciate that it is truly that this is stuff that the kids can apply in their young adult lives, And so I think this is just a fantastic way you're going. I love the breadth of this as well. So kudos, and I look forward to voting on this.
Thank you.
Just go down the line.
Okay. I just wanted to say I really appreciate this as well. I think that the visual for folks to be able to show where this follows and how this flows into the remaining years of their high school experience, kudos. I think it's incredible that you're able to tie this real life experience as well as the different programs that these can work with and coordinate with for students in your accounting. Or, there's students that are at Liberty that take a marketing class and different things. So I would love to be able to see a math coursework like this at every single high school. I think it's fantastic. And if we can work in that flow chart maybe eventually as to the different types of CTE programs that we offer that this would work with and correlate with, or where, there are different math, you get what I'm saying? Exactly. So, anyway.
I have two questions. One is just a clarification. So if I'm like in an arts focus program and I take Algebra 2, can I take Algebra 2 and then slide over and take this as well? Going the higher math is not sort of
right. It's a parallel. They overlap in some of their concepts, but the two courses are very distinct. So a student could either take this course and go into Algebra 2, take Algebra 2 and go into this course, or they can take this course and move on to statistics or AP statistics.
Okay. And the cost of it, because it's a book that we don't have or resources that we don't have and wasn't part of the math adoption, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, actually, we're negotiating that right now, and in fact, we're looking at how much money we held back to make sure that we could, follow through with the math adoption, with the Chromebooks and the repairs and all that. So I'm trying to identify right now if we could support this on a small scale at Glencoe for next year, that we can. So we're negotiating between the school and the district to cover the cost of the curriculum.
How would we ramp it so that it is successful at Glencoe and pilot? And how do we ramp that so that it replaces that CAD class in all of our high schools?
That's a bridge we'll cross when we get to it.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I also think it sounds like a really great idea. I've been spending some time lately volunteering at HOA, and actually today was just sitting down with a math teacher who was telling me how much trouble she was having convincing her Algebra 2 students that finding the number of roots of a 4th degree polynomial was relevant to them. And it seems like those kind of students who are pushing back are the ones that really like this same class. I do have a question though. On this flow chart here, it looks like if someone takes this financial algebra class followed by statistics, they're supposed to be just as prepared for AP calculus as someone in the traditional path. Has that been tested in other districts and have students really succeeded after taking that path and then going on to calculus?
That'd be something I'd have to look into a little bit more. Stephanie Blair is kind of our math host. I don't know, Stephanie, do you have some more information about kind of how the flow would go with that particular piece?
If they took the class, the advanced algebra class, that'd be their 3rd year math class. So as their 4th year math class, they could take stats or AP stats. Then looking on to 5th year where they place in college, we'll be looking at math 111 or pre-calc.
Okay, so you're thinking that after the statistics class, they would need an additional pre-calculus class before they'd be ready for calculus.
Correct.
So that's kind of at odds with the flow that you handed us here. You might have to clarify that. I'd hate to see a student, like an advanced math student, decide to take this financial algebra instead of Algebra 2, and then 2 years later find out they just locked out of calculus effectively because he didn't have the right background.
Right, and I think we can definitely clean up that flow chart. I think that'll be a major part of our guidance with students as well, is what would be that 4-year college track, the community college track, and then the work track, kind of similar to the guidance we provide currently.
I didn't know there was any algebra other than financial. I think this is great. Long overdue. I'm really hope that it's a success. As we have it at all of our high schools. I've got 3 adult kids, and I look at auto purchases and liability insurance and income taxes and what they didn't know when they got out of college, much less high school. And so I think this is great for kids using it in their everyday life.
Thank you. I'll just add another council comment. I was really excited to see this interact. I know sitting in the board superintendent advisory team student kind of group with Mike and some of the other board members, I've heard students say that they wish there was something a little bit more applicable and in-depth than personal finance to kind of have as part of their study. So this is a really great move forward in that next step.
Thank you.
Well, you got a question? I'll ask my question. Actually, just in the past month, I've had conversations with my own kids along the same, my graduating kids along the same line, and they do what I didn't know here and there. The specific question, you kind of targeted this as financial algebra for those not going on and those not pursuing advanced mathematical directions, and yet the content is so practical that in some ways I regret that it feels targeted at the group that's not planning to do the other half, you know what I mean? And I wonder what the practicality is for couching it for those students who are going, who are taking an advanced math track and taking calculus and fitting that into maybe their senior schedule because senior years are more open, and how will they feel kind of going back to the class? I mean, will it be a positive experience for them?
Yeah, and I think this is such a valuable experience. I would love for all of our students to have more access to personal finance and financial algebra. I think for us, moving forward, it would be building the capacity FTE-wise to be able to offer it to more students. I certainly wouldn't want to be the end point, because right now with our students who do take the tag class, it often is their fourth year math option. With this, what I'm hearing from kids is a lot of them are looking at it as a third year, and we're hoping that that's going to catapult them into taking that statistics and AP statistics instead of just going, I've met my 3-year graduation requirement and I'm done. We really want them to get that full 4-year experience, which is how we're kind of couching that with the kids right now.
So is that saying bandwidth-wise, you really are not targeting?
We are trying to move away from targeting, for marketing it as a class for students who this is the end goal. We really want it to be an offering that is a viable, more rigorous offering, where kids are going on to that 4th year.
I know we've had conversations in the graduation committee. It's also come up, graduation requirements committee last year, talking about math requirements and what other requirements Monty mentioned interest in this exact kind of class as universal graduation requirements. And I think the comments here have all reflected such a positive nature to it that I was excited to see it. And I'm still looking for that way to see it expanded to fundamental life skills that all students ought to feel motivated to take. Anyway, very great work. I'm really looking forward. So you're taking this out strictly to Glencoe first year, and then?
Yeah, that's correct.
Jimmy?
I was just curious, when you take a course like this, I mean, what if, looking forward, do we ever have the ability to take that and possibly make that into some sort of class that students at HOA can take at the same time, as far as being web class and having it? Is ever that a part of a discussion? I don't know if that's like.
So there's that possibility. This actually comes in 2 different versions. There's a book version of this, which we are using, and we're also using the online pilot. So there is that possibility of it being available to other students through that digital format.
Yeah, I just wonder also, like, sometimes I don't know what the possibility is, like, actually while the class is taking place, is being able to have that eye in the sky that students that could take an online version as well as have, access to the teacher in a class. I don't know. It's just
I know that amongst the vice principals, at least, this has been a discussion for all 4 high schools, because there's an incredible interest in this and seeing how it goes. So, I mean, I think the possibilities are endless.
Any other questions?
So we'll work on the flow chart, and then if there are any questions, please forward them to me, and then I'll share them with the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have financial report.
Financial report is included in your packet. I did want to point out one thing while they're still here. We have some interns from the business office here with us tonight. We have Haley, Rhoda, and Manny from Glencoe High School, and they are interning with the business office right now. They're getting a 15-hour experience. Manny is actually back for his 2nd round, and I'm not exactly sure what his program is, but he's working directly with Michelle, and we're enjoying. They're just starting that program. So, welcome, guys. This is their first.
You look very bright.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and at 8 o'clock at night. Aside from that, the other big news that's happening in the business office is we got babies. We have Coral Unger, who is in our department, is, well, as of 5 o'clock, was still in the hospital having a baby, and then we've got 2 grandbabies that have arrived in the last week, so lots of babies. Aside from that, I'd be happy to answer questions regarding the financial report It was included in your packet. Huh? Well,
It's very thorough.
you know
It
where
was
to
so
find me.
thorough, we had no questions.
There you go. All right.
Was that it?
That's all I thought. Unless somebody had a question for me.
He's usually got so much to say. But I'm not done. Okay, we are sticking to the schedule here. How about that? Okay, with that then, we will, I would look for look for a motion for our consent agenda. Is that not right?
Revised.
The revised consent agenda.
So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda in its most recent version. Second.
You have one of those moments.
Okay.
What's your name again? Lisa.
Oh, that's what that was. The women on the right.
Motion has been made by Kim and seconded by Lisa, whose name I do remember. Are there any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. My screen is off. Okay. On to action items. Up next, we have Beth.
Yes, so as you know, we are getting ready to enter open enrollment, which is the month of March, and we are required to have you all as a board take action on whether or not we are going to participate in open enrollment, and if so, the number and location of any openings. And I believe when I spoke to you all last time about this, I mentioned that one of the changes to the law last year, specifically as it relates to House Bill 2747, which is the second kind of what we call quote unquote the regular method of interdistrict transfer. One of the changes to that law was that anybody who moved after a district's interdistrict transfer window, be that summer, be that after the school year started, would have the ability to remain in their district for the remainder of that year. But then after that year, they would have to reapply for interdistrict transfer. In that process of reapplying, they are allowed to have preference over people who've never had a transfer in place before. So what we did to try to prepare for our open enrollment slots was we ran a report of all the students that we know of for whom that is the reality, where their family moved either in the summer or after school started, where they are and what grade level they'd be in next year. We have well over 75 students for whom that is the case. Now, not all of these students are going to want to apply to come back next year, but presumably there will be many of them that would like to do that. So we took that into account at each school. We analyzed each school's enrollment, specifically at elementary level, to look at grade levels that were really full and anticipated to be that way again next year. We also kind of cross-referenced that with where our new special education program placements were going to be, and drafted up our recommendation, showed that to principals, explained kind of our thought process and methodology, and allowed them to take a look at their own staffing and enrollments and weigh in on that. So in a very iterative back and forth process between our department and the principals, we feel like we've come up with a pretty good list here. So in years past, you'll notice that we've opened approximately 40 spots for open enrollment, but because of wanting to try to be accommodating to those families that have moved, that's why you'll see quite a few more openings this year, and pretty specific in certain schools. Like there's one spot at this grade level, you know, in really tight grade levels, they want to accommodate that continuing student, but they wouldn't really be able to take new students, for example. That's why you'll see that. One other thing that we checked out at the state level that we haven't been able to do before because we've always wrestled with how do we deal with kinders, because even for our own resident kinders, we don't deal with their transfer requests until the summer because it's so difficult for our schools to know what their resident enrollments will look like, because many families just don't register their kindergartners ahead of time. So it's difficult to say, oh yes, I can accommodate some non-resident students when they still don't quite know what their resident student enrollment will look like. But, you know, we have a lot of families that have their younger siblings coming up the ranks, and maybe we've accepted an older student, but if we don't deal with kinders and they miss out on both windows, then they're kind of stuck. So we asked at the state level, you know, even though we're identifying very specific openings at our schools, can we also perhaps open up a number of slots for incoming kinders and just not give them a final answer on where they'll be placed until August. So that would give some fairness to our resident students in that process as well, and they said that we could. So our recommendation is that we open up 15 what we're calling district-wide kinder slots that people could apply for, and we have a special form just for incoming kinders that allows them to indicate what schools they would hope for, and then it's very clearly stated on there that they wouldn't get their final placement information until August. Now that is unless they want to go to Groner K, for example, or to one of our dual language schools that has indicated that they will take kinders, which would be your Reedville and W.L. Henry. So I know that's a little bit complex, but hopefully it makes some sense. And again, it's noted at the bottom, these numbers of openings aren't intended to add up to 115. It's kind of that upper bound limit just to make sure that we don't get too many requests in any one place. So we intend to accept up to 115 in the locations where they're indicated. How do you guys feel about that?
So just to make sure I understand that the 15 district-wide slots are in addition to, like, as you said, Groner has the K through 8 that they would have there.
That would be a place where if a kinder wanted to go to Groner, they wouldn't have to wait till August to find out that they got in there.
And I noticed that a couple of the schools are closed. I understand Rico because it's stacked to the rafters. Is Patterson over capacity too, or is that just one of those where we thought that there was a lot of the other folks who were going to do it?
That was determined in consultation with the principal. She just felt like, based on staffing and class size, that she really couldn't accommodate any new students at this time. We'll reevaluate that again later in the spring to see if anything changes for the 27-47 window. She didn't feel like at this time that she could accept any new kids.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Chatty bunch tonight. I will then take a motion.
I move that we, do you need this, I'm sorry, let me clarify. Do you need us to give the specific number of slots? Nope. Okay.
I think if you just say that you move to approve the list as prepared.
Perfect. I move to, I'm thinking about how I word this. Move to have the school district participate in the 2016-17 open enrollment as guided by House Bill 3681 and direct administration to determine and announce the number and location of available transfer slots.
Second.
Motion made by Kim and seconded by Janine to adopt the resolution to admit non-resident students as designated. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth, for navigating that always quite a process. Next up is me. We have in your board packets the culmination of the board evaluation process that the evaluation committee has been working on over the past year. It's been available for a while in the packet this evening. are a couple of interesting things I wanted to point out. One specifically is the list of 360 feedback people that are intended that we intend to collect the feedback from, including board, cabinet, list of local leaders, union leadership, and general public online questionnaire. When it talks about the online evaluation tool, just so you know, on the following pages, under the standards 1 through 6, I think, it lists the performance indicators and the overall rating. In the online survey, they will be asked to provide their rating for each of the performance indicator items. It doesn't show that on this page, but when the online comes out, as we talked about before, they would provide the rating for each of the items and then an overall rating for the categories information first. The other interesting piece of information that's documented here is the timeline, showing May 1st to May 15th for collecting the feedback, 15th to 31st for the tabulating of results, and then the consultant coming back in to present on June the 14th. And so the next step for us in this process, once we start executing it, will be this May 1st timeline. Any questions? Okay, I would then look for a motion to adopt this process.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the board evaluation tools presented by Wayne, our chair.
Second. Motion made by Glenn and seconded by Eric to adopt our board evaluation tool and process as posted in our packet. Any further questions? Janine?
It's not a question, it's just a comment to be able to say that I'm excited about the opportunity to take this next step in our evaluation process. I really, I enjoyed the aspect of the 360 with, Mike's evaluation, to hear the varying perspectives and opinions and things, and so I appreciate having that in there for us as well, because I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Okay, well said.
I'll be voting for the adoption, but I think it's incomplete in that we don't evaluate ourselves based on our key performance indicators. We're evaluating our teachers, we're evaluating our students, but we're not willing to evaluate ourselves based on what we'd like our key academic achievements to be. So I think that's incomplete as far as evaluation.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that the next step to take is a district evaluation, where the points that Monty's bringing up will then feed into that. So I think that's to understand our varying roles, and I think that will make Monty happy.
Yeah, well, it's been involved. We'd love to have had that in for years now. I appreciate that, and I think we should make clear that that is coming, and it will align with our strategic plan redevelopment, and key indicators will come out of that, and we're excited to fold those in the coming year. It's also interesting to point out that this is in addition to the superintendent evaluation, which will follow its now standard process along that similar time. With that, any other questions? The motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed? Motion carries. It's the you gotta get. Yeah. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's not enough. I don't know what makes it worse. Next up, we have Mike.
As we talked about in our last work session, you'll remember that by March 1st of each year, we need to determine our level of participation with the Northwest Regional ESD. For the last couple of years, we have been involved we've been taking 75% of the money that is allocated for us as pass-through dollars, so we've been taking that directly to us. This year, we're recommending that we return to our full membership and we take only 50% in pass-through money. That would allow us to be full voting members. And we based that decision on some of the changes that have taken place over the last year or so. And over the last year, we've seen changes in the leadership, and the leadership has been more collaborative in nature. They've been more responsive to our needs. So we now feel like whereas we weren't getting a full value before, especially in the areas of the core services that were provided, we now feel like we are receiving the value that we need in order to be full members. An indicator of that would be that over this last year, we've received over $700,000 in grants that we've been able to garner through our participation with other districts that are involved in the Northwest Regional ESD. And that, coupled with the changes that have been made to the formula in core dollars versus the service credits, that's a good match for us. So I'd recommend that we have a motion that would get us back in as full voting members.
Look for a motion.
Get it over. It's not crazy.
As close as it's going to go.
I make a motion that the Board of Directors adopt the resolution electing to receive 50% of the Northwest Regional ESD State School Fund attributable to HSD for 2016-17 school year paid directly to HSD, and approving the Northwest Regional Education Service District Local Service Plan for 2016-17.
Second.
Motion has been made by Janine and seconded by Kim to adopt the resolution modifying the Hillsboro School District's level participation, as said so eloquently by Janine. Any other questions?
Actually, I did have one. So you mentioned that we'll be full voting members again. How do we do that? I mean, does it questions come up and then we vote on it here and then?
No, it's actually, that allows the superintendent to weigh in on the service plan that the ESD is proposing. So this last year, for example, when we weren't full members, we didn't have the ability to influence that other than back channels. So we didn't get a vote. So this would allow us to help steer the conversation at the ESD. And I have to say, they've been very generous with allowing input. They were motivated to get us back as full members, and I think Rob made that clear last time he spoke. So this allows us to vote on the service plan.
So you get a vote, is that what I'm?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, got a bunch. Kim.
I just wanted to say thank you. I think I like that you, as superintendent, reevaluated it when it wasn't working and worked really hard with them when they came back to figure out how they could make it better, and I appreciate the time that you put in it, and that was just excellent.
Thank you.
Make it work really well for our community.
Eric?
Oh, yeah, just want to clarify with you, Mike. Now, we still have our board member who we sent over to the ESD board, right? Lisa Polens. So
she might be done.
I think she's not serving, but she represents our region, not necessarily. She's not like a board.
Doesn't represent our district.
No. Yeah, so I want to say there's 27 districts. Do you know how many districts in the Northwest Regional ESD? 20? 20. Okay, 20-ish. There's, and the board members are made up of in various regions that represent the entire area.
The money is going to the ESD that used to come to us directly, right?
So what happens is the money is actually through the state school fund is allocated to the ESD. And we have taken, this last year we've taken 75% as straight pass-through dollars. Now we are going on the record and saying that we're going to take 50% as straight pass-through dollars. And I guess the irony of it is that we spend that many service credits in special ed services anyway. So it's really not a negative thing for us at all. We're spending most of our service credits in special education services anyway.
So presently we're paying consultants to do this work, and we're going to pay ESD to do the work in the future? Or is there staff people that?
No, so prior to us pulling out, we didn't feel like we were getting the value out of the core services. There's two different categories of money. There's the core services, and then there's the service credits, primarily which we use for special ed, outdoor school, that kind of thing. And the money that was allocated for core services, because of the size of our district, we were having to replicate those services anyway. So it had to do with technology, or it had to do with some curriculum type issues, and because of the size of our district, we had people that were engaged in that work anyway. Now that those core curriculum dollars have been reallocated, so that we will be getting the value out of the work that's being done.
But the people that were involved in it this year what are they going to be doing next year?
Oh, so it's different work. So the areas of work that are concentrated around the core services dollars, that work has changed. So it's work around English language learners. It's providing grant writers, just a variety of different things that weren't originally being offered in the core services.
Any other questions? With that, motion is on the table. Or motion is made and seconded. All those who can support it, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up, Adam.
So you will remember back at the January 26th board meeting, we had our audit presented by Larry Grant from Groth Mueller Schmeink, our auditors. And as a part of there's a new rule at the state, the Secretary of State's office, that says for any of those comments that were made in the audit document, we have to prepare a written response that has been reviewed by the board and approved, and then forward that response on to the Secretary of State's office. So what you have tonight is a resolution that includes our action plans for those comments that were listed, and those, once they're approved by the board, will be forwarded on to the Secretary of State's office. As I said, this is something that, not something we've ever had to do before. So
Accountability.
Yeah. Happy to answer any questions.
I move the board approve the financial report action plan for fiscal year 2014-15.
Second.
Motion made by Monty and seconded by Janine to approve our financial report action plan fiscal year 14-15. Any other questions?
Question. The protocol you're referring to in directed measures?
Yes.
So the first one, what is that? Because this is our second year, isn't it? For this particular corrective measure?
For the teacher experience piece. Yeah. I don't know if it was in last year's or not. It may have been. This is, they randomly go through, pull teacher contracts and compare that to where we're placing them. And what we're saying is that we will be working prior to audit to make sure that the teacher experience that we are reflecting in our report to ODE is consistent with what's in the contracts that we assign to our staff.
So what are we going to do? Are we going to do a random sample before they get here? Or are we going to look at all of them?
Well, we're going to look at all of them as we enter them, as we send them out, and then we'll probably do some random sampling of our own before they get here.
Because as I recall, I remember, I think it was 30% last year, and now it's 8%. So, but this is something that should be 0%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? With that, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Final action item, also to add.
So back in September, we presented the board with a list of projects that we were working with an energy management company to that we'd like to have done that would result in savings, and those savings would then generate enough revenue to pay the debt service on to finish these projects. The board approved that list of projects pending the financing. And what I have for you tonight is the financing for those projects. And in addition to that, you have a page there in front of you. Thank you, Monty, because what you had on the situation page was just the debt service, just the cost of the program. Didn't include the savings that we anticipate each year with that. And as you can see on there, the way the program works is that the energy provider, Amoresco, guarantees 90% of the engineered savings that have been identified. So the column on the far right is the anticipated savings that the engineers have identified. The 90% column is what has been guaranteed to us. And you'll see that over the next 16 years, which is the term of this contract, we anticipate saving about $75,000 cost versus benefit. And then once the debt service is paid off, we will just continue to realize the savings from those projects that we've completed. The 75 is just the amount that's guaranteed, meaning if we don't realize those savings, then Ameresco, the energy company, is responsible for making up the difference. Also, Ameresco is responsible for guaranteeing the cost of those projects. So if the cost exceeds what they have identified, then they are also responsible for that. So, I can tell you that the net interest rate that we're going to be paying on these bonds is right at zero. And that's because the QECB program that we're involved in is an interest rate reimbursement program. And the interest rate reimbursement that we're scheduled for is almost exactly equal to the interest rate that we're going to be paying. So the net debt service cost, the interest cost, will be zero on those bonds.
So could you say again the anticipated savings from all of this effort?
Is the $3.552 million.
So then you said something about the net savings. That's what got me confused. So
The net saving, I'm sorry, the savings that we're going to realize is $3.5 million, but it's going to cost us $3.4 million to make those, all the improvements that are going to be required. So the net savings, the cost minus the savings minus the cost is $75,000.
doing the project saves the $3.5 million, but doing the projects costs $3 and
right,
which means we get the benefits of the building and we get their benefits continuing.
And then once the
and cash in pocket, cash in pocket is the $75,000.
Correct. And the real savings that we're anticipating is the difference between the 3.9 million, which is what the engineers told us we should expect, as compared to the $3.4 million of the debt service. We're just only guaranteed that 3.552 number.
So then there's the range of net savings from 75K to something like 400, or what is the
500,000 roughly.
So 500,
450,
somewhere between 75,000 and 500,000.
Correct.
It's the 75 guaranteed, 500 potential.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we authorize the district's chief financial officer to negotiate the financing terms of the energy project within the parameters of authorizing resource.
Second.
Motion, that's nice. Motion's been made by Monty and seconded by Lisa to adopt a resolution authorizing energy project financing. I believe there's some questions to take. So, Eric.
Oh yeah, so I mean, this sounds like a good deal, but really what we're talking about is maybe $500,000 in savings over 20 years or so, right?
16 years.
Correct. Okay, yeah, which isn't that great in the scheme of things. And what I'm worried about is, have you evaluated the stability of this Ameresco company? I know that the whole solar fad sort of rose up a few years ago, and it's been on the decline, and we've had various reports of layoffs and failures of companies in this area. And this guaranteed savings looks to me, it's only guaranteed if Ameresco continues to operate, right? And if they go bankrupt in the next 4 years, then we're essentially holding the bag for all of this. Is that correct?
We're holding the bag for the guarantee.
Yeah.
Yes. I can tell you that Ameresco is a nationwide company. I've worked with them in former school districts. All their colleagues of mine have. They've been around for 25. Do you remember sitting through the presentation? They did a presentation at our Long Range Planning Committee.
Yeah.
I believe it's 25 plus years.
A long time.
They're well established.
So you would say you have high competence and
do.
continued stability?
I do.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, plus to add to that, the work isn't going to take 25 years to get done.
Correct.
So they're going to, basically, they have to survive long enough to do the work. If their engineer's projections were correct, then we're going to reap the benefits whether they're here or not. Granted that we couldn't go back on them, for it, but I'm fairly certain that over the long haul, this is going to.
Yeah. And Amoresco will not be doing the work. They're the consultant, they're the engineers that have designed the projects, but we will be hiring.
So if they're not doing the work, then that means that we have to bid the jobs, or are they bidding the jobs?
They're bidding the jobs. That's
Okay, so in a sense, they are the prime contractor.
They're the
So
general.
either way, I mean, it's on them. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
We would also have savings beyond the life of the bond, correct?
Oh, yeah.
For energy
That's
efficiencies.
the
So
beauty
you'll
of this,
continue
is
to
that-
realize this maybe projected savings of $200,000 a year.
Correct.
Moving forward. There just won't be a debt service.
Correct.
But I would just say, but by then, kind of all bets are off anyway, because then we'll be replacing equipment that's going to be end of life. So, but within the window of this I feel pretty confident personally, sitting through those presentations that this at least is going to be break even for us. I think, frankly, it's closer to the 500,000 or something.
Did I hear him personally guarantee saying that?
I said I feel confident. I didn't say that. I'm not an engineer.
I guess I'm a little concerned that they don't have a trust or something in case they do go out of business to pick up their guarantees.
Well, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not aware of it. I can do some more work on that.
I just wanted to say that I think that anytime we have savings in projected, in projects and whatnot, we should be shouting that from the rooftops and being able to share with folks that, hey, I mean, look, we are good stewards of the money and being financially responsible. So being able to show that we're making these investments in energy conservation and as well as it is giving us a savings as well in dollars, and putting those dollars back into the classroom where, so it's a savings.
I nominate Janine to shout from the
Sadly, we have a motion. I would need a second to modify. I don't know what I would need. Instructors what we need, but someone. But right now, I have a motion on the table made by Monty and approved, seconded by Lisa to adopt the resolution authorizing project financing as described by Adam. Without further questions, I would ask those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed, motion carries. You're not going to let me delegate the copies. Okay. No, I don't. Okay, so they get lost, Val. It's on him, not me. He's got the sign. Okay.
Wayne, can I add one thing? This kind of goes back to the transfer piece. You remember that when we did the boundary adjustment, we wanted to give the families that lived in the two areas the opportunity to stay in those school districts if they wanted to, and at the time the legislation wasn't in place to allow for that. We did have a piece of legislation that was presented and has been approved, is awaiting the governor's signature now. So that's one piece of the transfer that's not part of this. It's been done now. So
excellent. So yeah, I understood that's all done, but for a signature.
Yeah.
And is there a schedule on that? Do we know the mysteries of?
Now, are we talking the governor's signature? We're also awaiting the boundary.
Everyone breathes sigh of relief.
Right.
And
the boundary boards of the 3 counties have to meet to approve that. And the last I heard was Washington County had it on their April 18th agenda to approve. Then there'll be the 20-day remonstrance period. Then we can breathe a sigh of relief.
Moving on, we have, do we have any time for our unions? Your reports?
I'm passing since I already took up time for this section.
You always like hearing from you.
Okay, so it's been interesting watching the evaluation conversation going, because one of the things that we have difficulty in the classified unit is defining what work is and coming up with a definition of what done is. You go to any school and you ask someone, okay, here's this project. What are all the steps you need to do? What's the scope? What's everything you need to have happen? You can go to a bunch of different schools and come up with a bunch of different answers. And that's one of the difficult things we have in our union is when you have like a custodian who, when winter comes and the sidewalks are all icy, they go, oh, I need to de-ice all the sidewalks to make sure that people aren't slipping. But their definition of what needs to be de-iced and the principal's definition of what needs to be de-iced can be two completely different things. And without having strong policies and procedures and definitions of what a completed task is, it makes it really difficult for our members to know exactly what the principals want. Because we're not mind readers, we do our best, but sometimes it's really obvious and other times it's not so much. So as you talk about figuring out what your goals are for the coming years, think about putting in some real good procedures on what you expect staff to do and what principals, their definition of what a completed task is. I think it's really important, and it would really help sort of ease some of the confusion that we have out there in the schools. Thank you.
We don't have the Misty with us, so we move on to Mike.
All right, just a couple things. First of all, the Spanish-speaking coffee chat that we had last week was very well attended. So thanks to all who, actually Olga's here, I guess her department helped to put that on. So thank you as always. The outreach that you do to get folks there is just appreciated. And Wayne was a big hit as a Spanish teacher at the end of the closing remarks. So that was very impressive. So thank you for that. Thanks also for everyone that was able to attend Hillsboro Schools Foundation, a great night where one of our strongest partners raised a lot of money for our students. So that was very fun, and seeing Wayne's dance moves was very impressive. We also have, just a reminder, we have the Crystal Apple Awards on Thursday. So anyone that's planning on attending that, we'll see you there. And then the last thing I'd like to say is Elaine Fox is our big shot in charge of student services, and turns out within the last week she's even a bigger shot. She has been working to attain her doctorate over the last couple of years, and so Dr. Elaine Fox is with us this evening. Congratulations.
I just want to call her Dr. Fox.
You can shout that from me. She's up there.
Okay, we have a board time. Monty, why don't we start down on your side?
These things that you received today are from Guatama Elementary School. I attended their music program yesterday. Very good, second and third graders. I didn't realize they still do Aesop's fables, which was great to see. There's a lot of morals in those tales. They did a great job of moving second graders and their parents at 6 o'clock to 6:30, and then from 6:45 to 7:15, the third graders and their parents, which went off seamlessly. They know what they're doing over there. And then I want to congratulate Glencoe High School on their musical. If you didn't see it, it was great. I mean, they had some voices there that were just tremendous. You wouldn't think these kids were in high school. So it's good to see, and I'm going to try to get to Liberties this weekend. So I'm sure they have just as good of vocalists, and all of our high schools do a great job in our theater and drama and singing. That's my 2 cents.
Congratulations, Dr. Fox. That's really exciting. Working on her dissertation here in San Diego,
conference, so that's really cool to hear about. And also, of course, the Schools Foundation event was great as always, and all the people raised a lot of money. I was very impressed and grateful for, so I'm excited. I haven't provided results yet. And I think that's all.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. Congratulations. I too enjoyed the Hillsboro Schools Foundation dinner, and I look forward to Crystal Apple on Thursday. So you guys are killing my diet, but other than that, the food was great.
I too love the auction event. It was very exciting. It was really energetic. It was fun to see folks out in the community really supporting and getting behind our schools, and so I thank Hillsboro Schools Foundation for their incredible partnership for our district. Exciting times coming up. Read Across America Day. Some people might have full head-to-toe gear for Dr. Seuss's birthday, but that doesn't mean that you have to have it, because I'm really excited to start my day off at Groner reading Green Eggs and Ham to the whole entire school. And yes, I'll probably sample green eggs and ham. But anyway, it's an incredible event to be able to go out to these schools and just read these fun stories and have this interaction and conversations with kids. It's an incredible, I just really appreciate it. I concur with Monty. The high school plays are amazing. And that Glencoe, my husband, I thought, okay, I'm gonna get him because it's Catch Me If You Can. So then he said he would agree to go with me. Then he happened to drive by the sign that said, and he goes, a musical? But he'd already said yes. So he went, and so he said, as well as Monty, the voices of those kids, and it was just incredible. It was wonderful. To be able to see flyers flying in Mary Poppins, I'm excited to see that this weekend, as well as Hill High's play as well. It's difficult, if you're a play geek, to try to schedule all this and figure all this out. So gosh, if we could somehow say, please, spread it out a little bit. But being a play geek, I want to say that I'm super excited to be part of the Judy B. Jones cast for stages. I get to play Mother and the lunch lady. So that's fun, and that starts rehearsal. So there's a lot of great things happening in our district and with our students. That's all I'll say.
So ditto to everything already said. A huge shout out to high schools. Advisors, custodians, bus drivers, they are convention centers. And when you think about this, we often read in the paper about the sports season, but it is drumline, cheerleading, dance team, color guard, sporting tournaments, musical season. Like, the things that are happening in those buildings. I left Glencoe High School at 1:15 on Saturday night. And then the dedication of staff to make a space for all of that, it's pretty awesome the opportunities our kids have. Thank you to everyone who attended the Glencoe play. They know when you were there. I point you out as school board members because they think you're royalty. They think you're honored guests, and it's very moving for them when the special honored guests attend. And if you're looking for a family-friendly show, in addition to Mary Poppins, Century opens this weekend, Sound of Music. So you really have your point. No matter where you live this weekend, there are free shows you can catch in the Hillsboro community that are dedicated students and staff who have put in thousands of hours to make those things possible. So.
Right, so just to follow up on the comments about the plays, I actually took my daughter to see Mary Poppins this past weekend at Liberty, and they did a really great job, like everyone said. It was actually 3 hours long, which kind of surprised me, but they managed to hold my fourth grader's attention for the whole time. So I got to give credit for that. Excellent.
Stolen all the thunder. Spanish chat was wonderful. It was great to be with them. 2 musicals in 2 weekends. It's great for date nights. It really works out well. The school foundation thrown in to boot was a great time, wonderful event, and thank you to the HSF staff and you all for putting that together. It's really outstanding opportunity. There's an event that I got notice about, the dual language event on Saturday afternoon, 5 o'clock. Karen mentioned that celebrating the first cadre of dual language kids that have gone all the way through. I don't know if it's a celebration or a graduation or party or what it is, but it sounds kind of fun. So.
Did a special recognition for them prior to the graduation ceremony where they'll have cords, but this is for their families and classmates to celebrate their achievements.
So it's great. So that's coming up Saturday, Crystal Apple on Thursday. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of opportunity. Very good. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I appreciate everyone's time, and we will call ourselves adjourned.